Okay, today we're going to be doing some character design, and those were just some pose references I had up there. Basically, what we're going to be doing is drawing one of my very first D&D characters, which, if you've not played D&D, you should at least try it out. It's a great game. I know it's the nerdiest thing that somebody can do, but it is fantastic, even if you're maybe not the nerdiest person. Anyways, this is my second ever D&D character that I ever played. If you've ever played D&D, you know that you have a class and a race. This character was a human wizard, and I wanted to make this character as wacky as possible because my first ever character was pretty rough around the edges and kind of boring in some aspects. So this character I wanted to make sure was not boring at all. You can kind of tell from the pose that I'm putting in, just roughing in here, this character has a sort of a lot of life to them. Um, so with these character design and character sketch sort of videos, I think that I'm gonna start wanting to maybe give a little bit more story to the characters, because I think that might be interesting to explore. This particular character, Danny, was a young human boy who was adopted by a acting troupe when he was still a toddler. And I wanted that to be the case. His background was entertainer, and I wanted him to embody that, which we'll see as we go on here. Sort of with the entertainer vibe, I wanted to give him a very forthcoming and exciting pose that he's doing. Sort of, showy and show off sort of who he is. So with that in mind, this is me here sort of getting the pose down a little bit more with some actual human proportions instead of just the blocking it in. But basically, Danny's whole idea was for me to be able to play a crazy, insane character. And that gets represented, as we'll see once I start doing clothing and expression and stuff like that. But basically, what he was about a 19-year-old human kid who, after being adopted by this acting troupe, decided, never really matured, I suppose, fully, and because of that, always has like a childlike nature. The things that he mainly learned over time were, how to entertain, how to act, and how to play instruments, how to basically anything around what a acting theater sort of traveling circus troupe would be able to teach a kid. No one in the troupe, however, took up the responsibility of being Danny's primary caretaker. So he was just sort of taken care of by everyone. Because of this, he never really had a solid mother or father figure, and therefore just sort of grew up himself, and whatever he found interesting is what shaped him. The one item, which I don't actually put into this drawing, that was given to him by his parents, his biological parents, unbeknownst to him, is a small wooden duck, and he thinks that this wooden duck is alive and sentient. He believes that it's a sentient duck creature that was turned into wood and is trapped in that state. And that is his best friend named Horatio. What you just saw a second ago there, by the way, is I'm going to start roughing in some clothing, and I needed some cloak reference just to get an idea as to how his quote-unquote cloak is going to flow. So some notable items that Danny has is he has that wooden duck, Horatio. His goal is to get that duck to come back to life. Unfortunately, that will probably never happen because it's just a normal wooden duck. His only clothing that he wears are pink short shorts and a blue bathrobe, which I am roughing in here. And later we'll see he also has bunny slippers and a very special hat. In D&D, when you're a wizard, you need to have some sort of spell focus, like a wand or an orb or something along those lines. Danny's, we'll see later, is actually a nod to the Adventure Zone and an umbrella. So here I'm roughing in just like a general shape, sort of what I want the hands to be. I don't actually give them any shape right now, which I do later because hands are complicated. So here I play around with a couple ideas of that sort of quote unquote special hat, but I don't actually end up doing anything with it here. Then I try out another piece of sort of Danny's notable physical appearance, but end up taking it out as well because I didn't like the where it was setting. So I go ahead and put in some guidelines here and start roughing in sort of a face. I don't like parts of it, and I end up getting rid of them, but I do also like other parts of it and keep those. I want to give him a very excited, sort of happy expression. So I go ahead and do that, and then I shift it around just to get it in the right place. After I do that, I play around with a couple of different hairstyles. I wasn't really sure what to give him in terms of hair because my original sort of idea of the character was that his hair was covered up. And then I decided that, he's childlike, he is very flamboyant, he doesn't care much what other people think of him other than the fact that he wants to entertain. And because of that, I thought that, he doesn't have the skills to cut his own hair in any fashionable way, and so he just keeps it long and flowy. So there I block in some general hair shape, which I actually end up covering up with a hat, but yeah, after that, I go in and I think clean up some lines, look at some other reference, try to fix the left eyebrow because I didn't really like where it was. And then I start working on a couple of his other things. So there you can see him putting in his bunny slippers, which is another notable thing that Danny wears. Typically, sort of the way his character played was if he ended up liking something, he ended up liking it a lot. And whenever he liked something a lot, he would sort of take it up and not part with it. So what I kind of took that was he ended up sort of finding these slippers. They're comfortable, they're fun. He liked them a lot, and so now those are the shoes he wears everywhere. Sort of same with the bathrobe and the short shorts. They're just things that Danny thought were fun and exciting, and so that's what he wears. I also just wanted to make the character extremely wacky, so some of these things don't really have explanations. They're just things that I thought were fun and silly. Here you can see I'm swapping between layers, trying to fix up some lines. You see I'm closing off his feet there so I can fill in with a skin color. I decided that skin color is just a little too dark for what I imagine this character to be, so I lightened it up a little bit. And then I start coloring in the slippers with the same color as the shorts. And then I do a little bit of work on the slippers, trying to clean them up a little bit, get them the right colors. After I get that done, which takes a hot sec, I sort of go through the layers again, try to find exactly what I want to work on, and decide to go ahead and start on some color blocking of the hair. I decided that Danny was going to be blonde. I don't really remember why I decided that, I just sort of did. And then after I do that, I work on his face a little bit. I give his eyes, I white out his eyes. I go back out and take out skin color so that I can finish up some lines around. This is me. I always forget to close my lines and put things in the same layer, all that stuff. So this is me going in and closing off the bathrobe so that I can color in the back portion of it. Now I'm going to start working on the hat again and trying to figure out what I want to do with that. The original idea that I had, and you'll see it coming in here, is Danny wears the top part of like a unicorn onesie as his hat, as his hood. I wasn't really sure how to get that in here as something that made sense, so I decided it was going to be part of his bathrobe. So it's kind of like a weird unicorn bathrobe thing. So this is me just sort of turning it into a hood that he wears. You can see the hair is sticking out there. I'm going to fix that here in a sec, in a kind of cheap and quick way. I'm giving the hood there a little bit of color. I wanted to keep the colors sort of synonymous throughout the whole piece, so I went ahead and make it the color of the robe, the shorts, and the slippers. After I do that, I have to do some fixing with colors. I really need to get better about my Photoshop layers and everything. I end up just making crazy amounts of layers. Next, I want to kind of get in some of that like sporadic magic vibe that Danny has. So I just put some particle effects behind him. There's a spell called Prestidigitation in D&D where you make like harmless sensory effects, and Danny loves that spell because it gives him a little bit of flair to whatever he does. So this is Danny probably at the like end of a performance or even just like a sentence or a conversation with someone that he's just like casting a quick sort of surprise prestidigitation to make some sparks and things around him. After that, I go into some general shading so that I can kind of get an idea as to like lighting in this piece. Uh, you'll notice that my art style on digital especially is extremely sporadic, and I swap from doing one thing to doing another thing very quickly, and I really have no rhyme or reason, which honestly, in terms of this character, is very fitting because rhyme and reason are not things that this character really follows. Because I'll basically go in here and do some cell shading, realize, oh, maybe I want to do something else, and then, move over to that thing and, move back randomly. My layers in Photoshop start piling up like nobody's business because I don't do things the right way. Instead, I end up doing things all over the place. This is where I start moving back to another part of Danny's physical appearance that I've kind of not mentioned very much, which is the fact that he has a arcano-mechanical eye, which is basically a magical mechanical eye thing. Basically, the backstory part of that was Danny has an obsession with magical items, and anytime he hears even like the the faintest mention of there being a magical item, he wants it. So this gets him in a lot of trouble. He's in a part of a traveling entertainment group, so every town he goes to, if somebody mentions a magical item to him, he just follows them. And that kind of leads to like the kid in the candy truck sort of thing, where Danny may be told there's a magic item and then maybe not have the best repute of the person that's telling him. So the eye and some other pieces are sort of like someone was like, "Hey, you want a magical eye?" And Danny was like, "Yeah, totally." Followed them into their workshop, and they ended up being like a mad tinkerer who needed a test subject. So they took Danny's eye out and replaced it with this one, which he probably doesn't mind because it's a magical thing. That's pretty cool. But other things that I sort of thought would be funny in his backstory and are included in his backstory are that he's had this happen to him a few times where, the eye, he got a replacement eye, but he's also like lost a pinky and like a kidney to just people saying they had magic things and then, stealing from him. Now that I've sort of gotten in the general idea of the character, I'm going to work on some detail things that I usually leave to the end, like hands. So over here, I'm drawing the hand on sort of a larger scale to kind of get the idea of the shape that I want. It doesn't end up being perfect, but I also don't think it ends up being bad. And then once I get the hand shape down, which I have to do quite a bit of editing over here because, hands be difficult. So once I get the hand shape down, I select the whole shape and then I move it over to where I want it, resize it so that it fits with sort of the character shape. And then redo some lines, fill it in, and then I'm going to erase the hand behind it that was my original guide. So after I've done that, I'm going to start drawing Danny's spell focus, which is, again, a nod to a podcast called The Adventure Zone. There is a wizard in that podcast called Takko, which he's also kind of a flamboyant wizard. But basically, in that podcast, Takko's spell focus is a staff or a wand that's actually an umbrella. They call it the Umbra Staff, which I think is pretty funny, and I had just listened to that podcast, and I thought it was an incredible podcast. Still goes. There are other campaigns that they're running right now, but that podcast I really, really liked, and as a nod to it, wanted to give him a similar spell focus, so I made his spell focus an umbrella. After I get the sort of sketching of the umbrella, I go ahead and do the next hand off to the side, also on large scale, so that I can then shrink it, move it, edit it to fit sort of this piece. So yeah, that's me moving the hand, and then I move it over to the left there so that I can resize it to be the same size as the other hand, and then I move it to where I want it to go. After I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and erase the original sort of mock hand, edit that hand and fill it so that it fits with the original body structure, and then put back in the umbrella and then move it to a place where it kind of makes sense that he could be holding it in sort of that hand position. Once I have it in there, I go ahead and erase parts so that it makes sense, sort of foreground, background, and then I fill it with its colors. I realize it's covering up the name, so I move the name down, and then I go ahead and fill in the rest of the coloration because my fill tool is not great, and I don't know how to fix it. um, so after I've done that, I'm mostly done, and I just want to do a couple of touch-ups. So I go ahead and go in and I touch up sort of the mechanical eye. I want to give it a little bit more shape like the other eye. So we'll see here, I give like a little bit of a triangular shadow to just give it a similar shape. I go in and I edit sort of the hair shape on the left, and then I also make the weight of the line of the hair flowing out a little bit thinner. I didn't like how thick it was. And then I segment that part of the hair up as well because I thought it was just too blocky. After I do all of that, I'm mostly done with the piece, so then I go ahead and add some shading to the hands and to the umbrella, and then I just check the shading on the hair and everything, and that's basically it. And so that's Danny. He's my second D&D character ever, and I hope you guys like this character design session. Definitely send me notes if you have any. And also remember to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. I do art, I do build videos, I do video games, and I do all sorts of other things on this channel. So if you like it, stick around, please, and make sure to share it with anyone else who might like it. So thanks, and I hope you enjoyed.